Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here to break down another exciting weekend. I think exciting weekend of DC area soccer. We got some wins. We got, if we could just have both teams come out and win, that would be.
Can't do it. They can't. It's too much joy. They cannot handle too much joy at Audi Field for one weekend. Couldn't do it.
No, they can't. It's just too much. It's just too much. But
are the DC Defenders or whatever playing tonight?
I have no idea.
I think so. Because it was a triple header. So that would have been maybe that was last night. It was last night, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, might have been last night. I don't know. I've stopped keeping up with the DC Defenders, to be honest.
I don't either. Only the fact that someone said it was a triple header.
All right, let's get into it before we anger all the fans. We did not besmirch anybody who supports the DC Defenders. By the way, let me just say, I don't know if they're doing something different, but the field or the grounds crew, the field has looked pretty good. I haven't noticed really anything that makes it look terrible. I don't know if you have a different opinion. So it's been good on the grounds crew to keep things rolling. So, yeah. So I think we're all hopefully good, and we hope the Defenders go out and win a championship. So
sure.
Enough Defenders talk. Let's talk.
Yeah.
First, John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? I hope it was good.
I think we're the world's #1 Defenders podcast just from that little bit of time. So that's good. I'm good. Let's see. How was my weekend? I watched soccer from home. My daughter's birthday was today.
Nice.
So that was cool. She was having. It was funny. She's having a bit of a. They call it 3-nature, but really it's 4-nature. Like she's just been having some attitude for nonstop, and then this morning was the same. It was like turned up to 11. I was like, "Do you know it's your birthday? Do you know how many presents you?" I'm not saying these things, but I'm like, "This is not the day for this." And then she got home and got presents, and just wonderful. So
hey,
all
buddy.
it takes, kids. Let that be a lesson to all you parents. If your child is having a whole bunch of behavior problems, just give them a bunch of presents, and then they'll be good. Then they'll be good to you again. So.
It's good parenting.
Good parenting, I think. Yeah,
from John. I was just saying, man, just enjoy it until the teenage years come, because
it's already kind of here. I feel like it's a pre-rehearsal at 4. All of the parents on here that have had 4-year-olds at some point probably will say, "Yep, just wait till 5, and wait till 6, and wait till 7."
Fair enough. Yeah, I have I just do my usual soccer thing. Out there refereeing games on Saturday, and then trying to recover as best I can on Sunday. Been a almost everyday thing, maybe much to the annoyance of my wife. I've had people ask me why there are so few referees out there on the field, and I say, why do you think we're always short? So it's a lot of stuff going on there. So yeah, it was a trying week a little bit for me on the referee field. I will get into too much detail on it, but it just wasn't. Yeah, one game stuck out as kind of one that wasn't very pleasant. And yeah, so all I got to say to that is, you can yell at the referees in the pro game. I don't have any problem with that. They're pros. They're paid much better than I am. But be nicer to your youth referees. We're all doing out there trying to do our best.
I'm very nice to my baseball umpires, so I just let you know I'm very nice to those people. There was a fight. I am militantly nice to them, much more than everyone else that's out there. There was almost a fight that broke out of my game on Sunday due to a dispute around the rules and the final score and a drop dead time, and there was someone called the commissioner and was screaming. It was wild. Adult sports, man, they're not too much better than kid sports, I think.
Yeah. We're the worst of the anyway, I don't want to get too much details on it, but just say I was dealing with coaches that didn't know that if the ball hit the flag, it's still in play. So that's the kind of stuff I was dealing with.
What do they think? That's like that was a dead ball situation?
I don't know what they thought, but they were very confused as to why we let play continue. So that was.
Did they score off of that?
There was no goal off of that, but just overall confusion.
Just wanted to be mad. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the nature. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's talk about soccer. We have some referee decisions, controversies, talk that we can maybe get into regarding DC United's game. DC United coming off with a 2-1 victory over the Seattle Sounders. A game I think good that they went and won. Maybe the nature by how they won is certainly up for debate. I think we've talked about it a lot on the show. This team kind of is what they are right now, and they are going to play with a style with conviction that's going to generate chances for them. They're going to potentially score on those chances. They're also going to give goals out on the break. It feels like almost a broken record with this team. This feels a game almost kind of like identical. Maybe I'm trying to think of a game where, where maybe the result wasn't as positive, but I kind of felt like things were the same. I don't want to say like New York, maybe St. Louis, maybe, I'm trying to think of a game where they got like a draw. Columbus might be another one where it's Orlando, especially too. It's really just evident, this team can go out there, put out a performance. And, I think they won the XG battle. Of course, they were up a man, so that makes a difference. But they looked like they were very much on their heels and looked like they very well could give up a goal sort of late in this game. The red card changed the game, and we'll get into that a little bit. But overall, like opening startup, lineups and everything, Jacob Murrell gets a start. What were your thoughts, I guess, let's start with the lineup. What were your thoughts on when you saw that? I first
want to look back in DC United Seattle Sounders head-to-head history because it's wild. The stats do not match up on the DC United website versus FootMob. FootMob says the last time we played them was 2019. We won
2-0. Yep, I remember that game.
Since then, we have lost to them 2-1, 4-3, 2-0, 1-0, 1-0, 2-0, draw 3-0. And then the last time we beat them was 2011, 2-1, in 2011. So that it's been a bit of according to FootMob, we're 2-1-8 all time against the Sounders. And many, of course, the Sounders, a team that I believe has missed the playoffs. How many times since they've existed as a team? Maybe once?
Once.
Yeah. So it had been a while since we played them, and obviously the rosters have been fully rolled over. But wild to finally get some points against the Sounders. Glad we played them here and didn't play them in Seattle.
I think I would have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure. I feel like we always would play them on the road. Like I feel like there was very few moments when we actually got them at home.
The last win was an Audi.
Yeah.
So that we played them at home in 2019, 2016, 2014, 2012. So we got a couple bites of the cherry. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. I think this is the downside about the league growing so much, is that you just have some of these like epically long gaps in between playing. I thought it used to be cool when, you had kind of a regular, there was a cycle, like every other year cycle. Basically, you hit your West Coast teams, but yeah, whatever. That's sort of
you talk about 2019. Rooney was on the roster then.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we played on the road. Last time we played Portland. Rooney. This was I believe that was 2018 with Rooney also on the roster. Or maybe it was 2019 as well. But it's been like pre-COVID times. Like Ben Olsen's still the coach. Like just almost feels like a whole different era for this team. So yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
So let's look at my thoughts on the lineup. The only obvious change was Jacob Murrell. We looked at the bench. Other than Jacob, there's just not a lot of options in that way. Ted obviously is the player you'd want in that spot, but there's not a natural secondary scorer. I remember you and I were talking about him, Jacob. We were saying he scored that like scorpion kick in preseason in Saudi Arabia, and we're like, holy moly! All right, well, good, start him. Let's do a two forward lineup just because of that. And then in his opportunities he's gotten, it's been basically like come in the last 30 minutes down a goal and try your best. And he didn't look that great in those opportunities, but he really did. He obviously didn't score, but he looked a lot more up to speed. He looked like he was in a space. And I think it may be that, and we talked about this too, like it may just be that the pressure of coming in and trying to change a game is different than having full 90 minutes to get the pace of the game sort of in your, in your internal clock and feel like you can take the shots that he tried to bike. He tried to score from outside the 18. He was going for it.
Nice little heel flick that almost worked as well. Probably his best opportunity came just a nice low shot off the bar, but he really came away from this game. It was kind of one of those moments we've been waiting for. I've been waiting for it with Christian Fletcher. I've been waiting for it with Jackson Hopkins. Just kind of one of those little, oh, hey, that's interesting. That's something we haven't seen before from a player. And I think he deserved a goal in this game. I think he had enough moments in the box. And I think when we look at this team, I think reading back on Stephen Goff's article, Teku Pietro said basically, I think he's out for another couple weeks at least. Mid-May is looking like that's what FootMob has for it. Maybe that's what we're looking at for him there. He's been a little coy about that, about when exactly he's going to be back. So, but that's a shame. But if we can, I think that's what we've been sort of saying is, we need somebody to step up. And, when I talked about guys that I didn't think were stepping up, I kind of excluded Jacob Murrell, mostly because, he's a draft pick. He's new. There's maybe a little bit of he's a little more of a project maybe. So I maybe accept that. He's not a guy who you look at as maybe having a super high ceiling. And that's not saying he can't achieve that. He might, but I think it was definitely more, there's a reason that type of player is not identified earlier, and then making it up and signed for a professional team at this point. There's a reason he went to Georgetown. There's a reason, he took a few years to develop. So seeing sort of that confidence out of him and that ability, I hope guys like a guy like Christian Fletcher's looking at that. And, I think it maybe, he got the start and you get that start. You say, okay, this is my moment. I'm not coming off the bench. This is my moment. I need to do something. And some guys, step up and flourish in that. So I think he's earned a start next week. I think in the post-game press conference, Troy was very complimentary of him and said, he looked really good. So we got a game coming up against Philly. I don't see any reason why he doesn't maybe get the start and get the opportunity. Do you think you stick with the same formation, same lineup and everything? Or do you move some things around?
Well, Connor Antley is again projected not to be available. Yeah. So I think you probably roll with what you got here. Yeah, I think you probably do. Maybe you could argue
Santos for
Dahomey, but other than that, I think that's probably, and it's fine as long as Santos is, he played for 15 minutes in this game. I'm not sure what his fitness level is after sort of a long layoff. If they want to bring him along slowly and make sure he doesn't get re-injured, then I'm okay. Dahomey is what he is, I think. He's had some games where he's looked pretty good, and I think his average is, not that great, but also not making a number of big mistakes to cause goals either. So, well, he's fine. Well, other than
he arguably had a mistake on the first goal where he's kind of stepped up into midfield. I think he's doing what he should do. He's pressing the ball, but he really lets it get by him, and that opens up a ton of space for Seattle kind of in behind. They sort of struggle to get back. This has been a problem for this team, all year. Do you look to improve it? I don't, I think the solution would be to fix this would be not to press so much. I think we'll be curious. I think, we talked about guys, I talked about in my preview piece stuff, about, Alex Bono being under threat. I think after some moments like this, I think you do maybe ask the question, is McVay, Birnbaum's now back on the bench. He is presumably had a long layoff as well. So it'll take some time to get him back. I imagine probably some sub appearances, here coming for him pretty soon just to get him reacclimated to the team. But, almost have to look at, who's a guy, of once Birnbaum is healthy and ready to go, before I would have said, maybe you keep him on the bench. Right now I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe you want him in there. Maybe you want him in that lineup. I think right now, Bartlett would probably step away and you would put him and McVay sort of up in the back. Bartlett plays more as sort of that traditional center back role. McVay likes to roam. McVay's showing an incredible passing ability. He has the pass over the top to Stroud that leads to the PK. So he's shown, and he's also shown some quickness and some ability to sort of read that game and present to that press. And I feel like if he's not there, then you lose that a little bit. So, that would be my prediction if we're talking about who sits. But I mean, do you feel the same way, or do you think, is it?
I think that I wouldn't put too much stock into the way McVay is playing versus the way that Bart was playing. That may be what the duties that are assigned. Basically, McVay, to your point, has a wider range of passing. He typically is the center back that will move further forward and try to pick that pass out. I don't know that Bartlett can't do that. I don't know if that's just not the role he's playing. I agree that if I were to sit one of them, I'd sit McVay, honestly, out of the two, of Bartlett and Birnbaum.
Okay.
I think you need to start getting him into games. This would be great if there was like cup competition or something like that. like when do you decide to not necessarily to not you shoot all your best bullets in one game? What do you decide it is? Because there's no matches that are gimmies. There are no for sure victories. So I think you started maybe give him a second half. Figure out how that's going to happen. He's a professional. He's been doing this for a long time. He's had a long layoff, but I don't imagine he'll look, too horrible. and you got to figure out he's making what he's making. He's the captain. You got to get him on the field. You got to figure out where he's at. So, but it is certainly something to look at. People have been asking that for a while. What happens with Birnbaum when he comes back? Well, he's here now. He's on the bench.
Yeah. So, well, it's, having depth of any
it's a
any
good
quality.
problem to have. It is.
Having depth of good quality is any problem. For DC right now, it's like finding gold because there's just literally, we talk about guys like Dahomey and I got into a little discussion with some fans over this, and I think people are like, well, Rodriguez is showing some good minutes, and so is Dahomey, and I'm like, the contract those guys are on, those guys need to be like top 5 contributors for this team, and they're not. And they are very far from that. Jared Stroud's had more goal contributions than Dahomey, and more than Rodriguez.
There are people defending Dahomey and Rodriguez to you. Where is this happening? Is this online?
It is online. I won't say who it is. You can go search. You go search my account. But we're just saying like, they put in some good minutes. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not acceptable right now. If they're on $200,000 contract, sure, maybe that's fine. Maybe what they're producing is
if Lucas
fine.
Bartlett did a couple good things, you're like, well, great, he cost almost nothing. That's what's wonderful that folks. Also, Chris, I know you have a pretty low opinion of Foot Mob ratings. However, Chris McVeigh has had 5 times as many above 7 Foot Mob ratings that he did in his career for Inter Miami. Yeah. So he's playing the best soccer of his MLS career anyway here for DC United. And if it means that that's our 3rd rotational center back, then we are in the best center back position we have been in since I don't even know when. I'm trying to think of a time where we had that situation. It's been a very long time.
I truly think
when Briant was the 3rd rotation guy, I think that might have been it.
Yeah, and I have to go look at. I was kind of looking at some FBref stats for him, I guess, to look at a comparison between the two. And Lucas Bartlett actually has, I think, a little bit better passing. Again, I think McVay's being weighed down right now by his Miami days. Still in that. So I'll be curious to see if that shifts or changes. I mean, hey, Mr. Gabo Prani moved, I think, from like the 1 percentile in shot creating actions to the 14th percentile in shot creating actions.
Amazing.
So moving up there.
Our lowest rated player from this game, by the way. Not that matters, but
Gabriel Pirani. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me talk a little bit. I feel like I finally figured out what frustrates me about him so much. He just does not look like he wants the ball. He does not look like he wants the ball on his feet. And I think that is his biggest problem. You are the number 10. The team is finding him in potentially good spots, and he almost automatically immediately looks for the pass. It's like quick movement, and I think he helped maybe set up one half decent chance sort of from a second ball. I mean, I think there's a real, and I believe in the press conference, I think Jason Anderson, a little hard to hear, but I can kind of recognize some of the voices. I think Jason Anderson kind of asked about him, and I think that was, I feel like he's a player maybe that isn't getting, like, we're not hearing a lot about him in the press. And, he said, Troy Bay said, well, I've seen some good things from him. We're working with him, so we'll see. I don't want to put anybody as a player that, there are plenty of players that have late blooms. There are plenty of players that start to put it together. I don't think it's too late for him. Obviously, with the way this team's roster is set up, the help, we're still ways out from the help coming.
No reason to light him on fire here on April 29th. In a press conference. It does you no good. There's no number 10 sitting on the bench like, boy, I wish I'd get some minutes. If only there wasn't Lucas Pirani in front. That person does not exist. So no need to light him on fire right now. Unless you're me.
He looks more involved, but I think it's just, I wish there were times, I understand the team wants to move fast and, this is a pressing team, but, maybe instead of hitting that pass, take a look up, see what you see, and maybe you'll see a pass. And I'd rather him go and try to make that pass than, make the sort of safe option. So
these stats are so bad from this game. Expected assist 0.03. He only passed the ball 15 times in 63 minutes. He only had 3 touches in the opposition box. Dispossessed 3 times. Dribbled no times. Ground duels 1, 0 out of 6. And committed 3 fouls and wasn't fouled at all. So just like a black hole of suck from this game pretty much.
Yeah, and it's, we look at where this team is getting their goals from right now. Where did their 2 goals come from? They came from, a really nice ball over the top from Christopher McVeigh, finds Jared Stroud, forces the keeper to come out, and really very, we talk about the penalty kick and the red card that sort of, flipped this game because DC's down 1-0 there. Pushing, I thought they still worked to create a few chances, and then the red card sort of happens and it kind of flips the game on its head a little bit. I thought it was a really, really gutsy call from the official because it's really hard. For those who don't know, and I think there was some confusion. Well, I thought, a dogzo in the box would never be a red card. It's not true. It can be a red card. It depends on whether the player has been adjudged to be genuinely playing for the ball. So if they're going for the ball, so it's meant to sort of, prevent double whammies while also not, you can't just go in and punch a guy in the face in the box on a dog's opportunity and say, oh, I'll just take my yellow, even though that probably falls under violent contact. But you get what I mean? You can't just drag a guy down. You can't pull him down with your hands. You can't, do a cynical type foul in the box and then expect to get away with it. I think that's one of those things. I think VAR has a tough time. The ball is very much pushed away by Jared Stroud. He kind of does a little bit of a second motion and really just kind of, I think the referee is like, you're really not playing the ball. The ball's not going to be up at, Jared Stroud's midsection. It's going to be down below. So I don't know why you have your hand up there. So I'm judging you as not playing the ball. I didn't think anything. I don't think there's anything you can look at VAR and say, yep, that is a clear and obvious error. Nothing would absolve it. So gutsy call. DC Benteke gets the PK and he buries it for 1-1. Nicely taken.
Smart
PK.
play for Jared Stroud too. I think he knew what he was doing there.
Yeah,
he could have done a lot of other things, but that's what he did, and he drew that foul. So that was a heady move for our winger.
Yeah, and, good. Gets DC up on the board. I can't really recall really much of them. I think really taking too many opportunities from that. I think I'm trying to remember the time frame of when the goal came. The second goal for DC came.
45th minute, 45th minute.
Okay, so it was right towards the end of halftime. So,
yep.
And I think an important goal because I don't think DC came out in the second half. I think if
they were holding on there in the second half, despite being.
And I think we'll get into a minute. I think the depth DC has. I think the lack of depth they have versus what Seattle's able to bring on really makes a difference here.
As a second half sub is a thing.
Can really overshadow being a man up. But it's talk about the goal. I mean, I think it's a pass comes from McVeigh right over to Click, who finds Herrera wide open. Herrera
goal right
does.
Here.
Yeah, Herrera does exactly what he should do. He puts a ball up that is, looping, where it's away from the keeper. The keeper really can't come out to meet it. And you get it in the vicinity of your big towering center forward in Christian Benteke, and he heads the ball into the back of the net for 2-1. And those are the types of moments. I think the biggest difference maker in this game was, DC had their designated player, Christian Benteke, going out there, and he made the difference, and he made the play he needed to make. Seattle had Rui Diaz out there. They had Albert Rusnak out there. They had Jordan Morris out there. They had Christian Rodon out there. Both good players that just did not deliver, a moment like that in this game. And I think that was the overall difference in why DC walked away with 3 points and Seattle is still struggling to really figure out. They have their worst start. They might be under threat of missing the playoffs, probably with one of the most talented rosters to play as badly as they have. So
they're also having a weird situation this week as they're picking up a discontinued game against the Union. I think that might be Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday.
And then
to the benefit of DC.
And then we get the Union after that. So interesting little bit of MLSery. But yeah, Benteke, it was funny. I think we talked about it on the Instagram halftime show. Was the duration the ball was in the air. It felt like it was like a slow motion montage of a 90s TV show. It was just like floating, and you knew it was going to happen. I don't know if they're doing it, but the DC United wingback should just like have like a 9-foot tall trash can that they're just trying to like put the ball inside of, like run down the side and hit it in the trash can, because he's a gimme there, and I think that You just got to keep on, no matter what changes, whatever tactical or personnel changes happen in the rest of the season. Like you cannot give that possibility up. You can't. It would be great if we had another avenue and another scorer, but we don't yet. So while we don't, let's just have Christian Benteke be second in the Golden Boot race.
Yeah, it's such a cheat code. You're right. It's like, I mean, you look at it, who he's facing up. He's going up against 5'9" Christian Roldan, and it's like the biggest mismatch. He literally, Christian Roldan just kind of drops his shoulder. It's like, what can I do? I can't even.
Would you have a ladder? What would you like me to do?
I think you talk about that secondary scoring. I think that's going to be a struggle for this team. Jacob Murrell, I will say, other than what we already know from TKDP, we know he can certainly be that. He has to be healthy. Jacob Murrell is the one guy who I think, got the closest, where it was like, oh, he's actually a threat, where if you can get him the ball in spaces and he can continue to show that, he's going to get goals. And so that's sort of the positive I think I come away from this game, is that the secondary scoring is still missing, but I think we finally have maybe a little bit of an inkling that maybe something can develop. And it might not. I mean, he could come out against Philly and he could look, what we saw, I think, a lot of in his sub appearances, which was not much. I
have a Ted Kudibietro question.
Mm-hmm.
So we right now have him on he signed a 2-year contract in 2022. No. There's an option for 2024, which was picked up, and an option for 2025. You're obviously picking those options up.
I think both options were picked up. So yes, he's here. Mm-hmm.
So he's here until the end of next year at the earliest. So obviously we talked last year, like maybe you need to think about extending him long-term. You need to give him more money. You need to make him happy. In light of the injury problems he's had last season, this season, particularly now when he's being sort of called upon to be a major contributor, what do you think about spending big money in his position in the summer? Are you concerned about blocking him in your acquisition choices, or do are you looking other places when you're going to buy people?
I think you'd be you would be a fool not to start looking. I think the most important thing is going to be, can this team offload some contracts? They're maxed out on DP slots. There's no DP they can go out and get right now. I think the most you would get is a U22 player, and that would be a project player. Do I think some competition might be in order? And maybe we get that from Jacob Murrell. I don't know.
I think that was their hope.
Yeah. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Ted DiPietro. I think he's picked up a couple injuries. It's difficult to say sometimes whether that's just luck or whether that's, something, serious. I'm sure it's something Troy and his training staff are looking at. How can we, keep this guy healthy? I think I'm still very much in, I'm not worried necessarily just yet. If it becomes a consistent problem leading into next year, then maybe then you get a little worried. But we'll see what happens when he comes back healthy. And he has shown he can put together stretches where he's able to be healthy.
I'd sign a withdrawn forward. Mm-hmm. I would do it. I would think it's fine. I think that there is such a need, and if he can't, the cliche is the most important ability is availability. And as this team continues to sort of hum along in that 7, 8, 9 spot in the table, keeping themselves relevant towards what their goal was, I think that if they have an opportunity to find a player, even in a multi-year contract in that spot, I would say do it and then sort it out later, because until he shows that he can be available for the full season or most of the season, you just can't build the attack around him, no matter how talented he is. You just got to be smart about it.
Well, so if Jacob Murrell comes in and starts to put the ball in the back of the net, do you feel the same way? Or
no? If he scores 5 or 6 goals this season, then great.
Yeah. And what I will say is, I still am not giving up on Ted DiPietro as either a creative player from the midfield. I think he shows some incredible passing ability. I think right now his strongest shoot is closer to goal because he can sort of show that elite finishing ability. But I think he still has the ability to sort of set up a pass. And I think we've learned from him is that he has shown an ability to grow and to learn things very quickly. So yeah, I'm still not completely giving up on him as sort of maybe our number 10 or creative midfielder. And I think Jacob Murrell, potentially him being successful and him being as kind of that top line striker, maybe moves him in the field. And then you can start to look at a guy like Pirani or Stroud, maybe sitting on the bench, and then they come off and they're, you can build some little bit better depth that way as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, because there is no attacking depth. Look at the bench in this game and then every other game. That's where that's not injuries. That's just we don't have it.
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah, I mean, you look at, Christian Fletcher, is showing that all that scoring he did in the U21s. I will tip my cap that everybody was saying he was going to light up the league. And I said, let's simmer down a little bit here. U21s are not the not the highest quality soccer. And I think I saw some of the score lines. I'm like, there's not a whole lot of defending that's going on.
He needs to go to Swansea U23s this offseason. Just got to stick one step up.
Yeah. Oh man, if we had an ex-pro team, that might be
nice.
That would be good for him. All right. Anything? Should we talk Alex Bono? I think really the second half is really kind of all Alex Bono. I think Seattle goes, they make changes, they bring on better players, they're able to sort of use their talent and ability to kind of override. I think you were saying, like, why didn't we play better a man up? I would say because we don't have really Ruidíaz we could bring off the bench. Mm-hmm. That's the reason. Again, I talk a lot about, not all 10 men ideas are the same. I usually think, once you lose a player to a red card, your goal should be to score as quickly as you can. Because then a team gets a chance to go to halftime, they get a chance to reset, and then they can, a lot of the time in this, I think this modern age of soccer, defend you pretty well in most cases. So, the goalkeeper gives them that option where they have to make that sub. So they sort of bring off an attacker. They're sort of able to play a low block. They sort of bring on Ruidíaz, who, I think played pretty well and got into good spaces. But, Bono maybe feeling the pressure from the fact that, Tyler Miller's back. I don't think you can look at him and say he's been atrocious in some of these games, but I think it's always worth asking.
Troy spoke at the midweek, and someone asked him that basically, and was like, "I'm happy with Alex. He was not, he wasn't the starter coming in last year, but I have no qualms with the way he's played, and for me, he's the starter still. And Tyler knows that. We've talked to him, so Tyler is aware. So I think it's been flipped." Until something else happens, I think it's, again, no cup competition, no opportunity to get Tyler, no opportunity to throw in the B team, basically. So we'll see. We've got a
maybe Leagues Cup.
There you go. We've got a question from our Patreons, patreon.com/RFKrefugees. From Jeff says, question for the pod. How does DC United need to think about defensive midfield for the rest of the year, given we now know that Knaus is out for the whole season? Should we bring in a loan or more seasoned permanent option? Do we count on someone from the back line to step up if Peltola or Hopkins picks up a suspension? It's a good question. We have Jeremy Gray. He's not coming back, most likely. Again, Troy was asked about this. He's like, it's not good for their development to be yanked back and forth. My argument would be, I don't think there's much development going to go on with Jeremy Gray. I think you kind of just need to treat him as your taxi squad. For this, if you need a body, then get a body. But this isn't asking about a body. It's asking about who's going to play if that happens. I looked up to see if Lucas Bartlett or Chris McVeigh had a bunch of defensive midfield experience. FootMob says they don't. FBRF says they do not. Connor Antley, however, does. Connor Antley is more of a Swiss Army knife, so you might be able to see him, when he's healthy, fill that role.
Yeah, I think you could. And response to Jeremy Garea is, I just think right now the team, it's really unfortunate because I think he's one of those guys who I kept waiting. I think he is going to. This is the last year of his contract. I think at this point, the contract will not be renewed. He will not get a second contract. He is going to be a free agent. He will probably go on to play in USL, and maybe, again, not saying he can't develop into a. We've seen this plenty of times with DC United, to have players that we think are they're not very good. They're kind of washed, and they go elsewhere, and suddenly they're world beaters. I think this is the end of the road for him.
He's a 15-minute sub right now for El Paso.
Oof.
Getting in. So not really killing it.
If DC gets an ex-pro team, maybe he gets a contract there, and maybe he's able to get some regular minutes. But I think this is kind of the end of the road.
He was poor last year for Loudoun too.
Yeah,
so it might they all don't work out.
Yeah,
it happens.
So it happens, and I think we just got to hope. We have two other players. We got Akambone. I talked a little bit about Nino, down the 17-year-old for the U19s. He looked very, very good in the USPSL game I witnessed. So there's still some talent I think this team can pull from. I don't think they're going to have a generation like they've had with Yao, Paredes, Fletcher, and Akambone. Like that is about as close to like a golden generation as we've had in this squad. So it's going to be on the youth. It's going to be kind of looking at what's next.
You got the players that are sort of on the fringe there. Isaac Espinal, Gavin Turner.
Gavin Turner's another one. Yep.
And then what's the name? I'm forgetting.
Nino. I
There's
can't
one other
remember.
one. There's another one that was on the bench in the Richmond Kickers Loudon Open Cup game. That is one of the prospects who I'm going to kick myself for not knowing. Give me 1 second. Loudon United, Richmond Kickers. The lineup. It was
riveting radio.
Graham Jones. Graham Jones, a player who was
Yep.
considered to be signed potentially in the preseason, went on the preseason tour, played in a lot of the games as a trialist. So that's another thing I think he played left back principally. So there are some players, but it's not going to be another 5 players that you're bringing through and then selling for a profit. That's probably unlikely going to happen.
Yeah, maybe bringing Griffin Yao back. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
The discourse around that has been funny to me. But yeah. All right. I think that's really it. I think Bono looked well. I think he's, solidifying his spot. I think ultimately, I think Troy's happy that there is still a guy like Tyler Miller out there who can at least be a pressure, a little bit of a competition. Bono has to now know he can't, he's not going to be the week in and week out starter. If he slips up, if he has a couple bad games, Troy can start looking elsewhere. So we saw it happen. We saw it happen with last year with Tyler Miller. He looked really strong to start the year, and then he had a couple bad moments, and Bono gets thrown in. Especially after injury as well. So
I love that Mateus Cook had 4 chances created from his spot on the field.
Yep,
another player that is a quiet MVP for this team, particularly with a 10 that doesn't work. I think it's really important that he's if not for him, our game would be entirely wing play. There would never be anything going in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think he is super crucial to this team. All right. I guess looking ahead, Philly are a strong team, but
what do you think our all-time record is against Philly head to head?
It's bad. I know it's bad.
Really bad. It's really bad.
We haven't beaten them since I think we did we beat them last year? And that was like the first time we beaten them, or
it's 11-8-20 right now. So that's
20
not
losses.
20 losses.
Jeez,
that's really bad. So that's we'll start there. We'll start from there. All right, all time head to head here. Last time we beat them was
I feel like
2021. We beat them 3-1.
Yeah,
with that Ramon Abila goal in the 95th minute just a nice little Juan Chope goal. But that was the last that we beat them, and then they beat us 7-0 and then 6-0 in consecutive games. So that maybe it wasn't worth beating them ever because we kicked the hornet's nest.
That was the low point.
That was the low point. That was the nadir. For sure.
Well, it was the first low point when I think it was Tom Sohn, or not Tom Sohn. Shoot, why can't I think of the interim coach's name? Chad Ashton coaching Reign. And then that was the game then that they signed Rooney the next day. And then we thought, oh, we'll be better. We'll be fine. And then we played him at home, and then we got shellacked 6-0 under Rooney. And it was just kind of like, what's changed?
Hey.
Oh, man. Low points for DC. But, hey, I think this is, if I'm Troy Lesane, this is a game I'm highlighting about. This is another team in Philly. They are a good team. They're a talented team, but they're, not as strong as they used to be. They're definitely kind of in a little bit of a transitional year. Before they had I'm really struggling today. Andre Blake, as sort of their goalkeeper. He was a guy who would go in and win games for them. He has not looked that strong. They're dealing with, an aging Bedoya who they, kind of reluctantly brought back. They've got some young talent, but they are still not, they're not as like 100%, strong as they used to be. They just lost at home against Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake are a good team, but they are not as formidable as they were. They're still going to have Daniel Gazdak. He's still going to be probably one of the better players. Jack McGlynn's looked really, really good, but I'd say this is a team that is vulnerable. And I think DC has to go out and get a win here. They get a win, and the loss against Orlando looks like a little bit of a blip. You pull 7 of your possible 12 points. I think you take that in DC's situation.
I read the form guide wrong and thought the Union had just won their first 3 games of the year in a row. That is not correct. They had won 3 in a row, and then they drew Atlanta, and then they lost to Salt Lake, and now they're playing Seattle. As I assume that's at home, right? That is at home.
Yeah,
because
that's at home.
Okay, yep. So interesting. I would recommend, if you have some gaps in your evening tomorrow night, or go watch that game just to do a little scouting for yourself, and hope for not serious injuries, but hope for everyone that gets very tired. Setting us up for a what will certainly be a trap situation if that does happen. It'll be like that time the Union were playing in the playoffs and either got COVID or something, and then they thought they were only going to have like 13 players, and they still won in a playoff game. It'll be like that.
No, they didn't win. I don't think they won. I think they lost that game, but they took it to PKs.
That's right. No, I remember now because I made a huge bet because I exceeded the odds makers. I know this first. I put in 5-unit bet, and then they didn't perform as badly as they should have. But
yeah,
all said and done. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity to get 2 wins in a row. I think that would really shore us up on the table, I would imagine, but it's early to even look at that, but it would be a good win for this team to have.
I mean, right now they are where I think we thought they were. They are 8th place. I think a win, if things go their way, they start to maybe challenge for those sort of automatic playoff spots right now.
Let's do a look back at April here. So April, we you and I always do this. We look at how many points should we get out of whatever. So we'll just look at April here. We had Columbus away, we had Orlando at home, we had New York City away, and we had Seattle at home. And from that, we got 4 points. We should have had 7 points.
Yeah.
At the very least, we should have. Yeah. The Orlando game that's a one to circle. Put a star next to that in your book as when we look back at the season of points lost that we should not have done. New York City, I think we always kind of predicted that one might. New York City is not the team they used to be, but it's a bizarro world situation when you play in New York. And the Seattle was not a foregone conclusion just based on history. So, we are what spot are we in the table now? Did you say 8th?
8th. Yeah.
I think that is an expected. This month was like what you'd want for this team, I guess. Not want, but expect. Upcoming. Would you agree? Do you feel like that's other than the so May is a bit more of a sticky wicket. We've got Philly here on the weekend. I feel like that's a doable win, even on the road, and even looking at 20 wins, 20 losses to the Union over the era. Then you have Atlanta away, which we could talk about. Then you've got New York Red Bulls at home. That'll be spicy because the Red Bulls are good this year. You got Miami away.
Oof.
That's not great. That's a snake pit. And then you have Chicago at home. That's 3 points in hopefully black permanent marker. And then you have Montreal on the road. Challenging game on the road for Montreal. That's a long travel, and it's only coming 4 days after your home game against Chicago. So you might see some rotation in that game if we have players able to be rotated. What are your general thoughts on this sort of gauntlet of a month, of 6-game month?
I mean, it just shows. I mean, other than Chicago, I mean, the East is just it's incredible how stacked the East is this year. I mean, there's just no real easy games. Philly, I think, are maybe not as good. Atlanta's, slightly also a little bit of a flawed team. They're still a team that is talented, but I think they're going to get beat. So, I mean, that's maybe a trap game for Atlanta. DC and the Red Bulls, I think, I'm very excited now. I feel like both teams, I think if we want a resurgence of the DC Red Bulls rivalry, now, I think we might be getting close to it. I think these are two teams that finally look like they have, a sense of actual direction. And it looks like, New York's going out and making exciting signings. DC looks like they have a direction that's pushing them forward. A chance to maybe rekindle that rivalry. So
We also come upon Atlanta at the right time here. They just drew at 0-0 against Chicago, lost to Cincinnati, drew against Philly, drew against New York City. So this is a downtime for Atlanta. So I actually kind of wish we were playing them first rather than Philly.
Yeah, and they're also going to have they got Charlotte Independence in the Open Cup, so they're one of the MLS teams in the Open Cup. That'll be right before they go play that.
So Philly, weirdly here, I think Philly and Atlanta are doable. New York will be a challenge, but a good challenge. I think one that everyone's going to be up for it. I think Miami pencil as a loss on the road. I think that's probably likely. Yeah. Chicago's a win, and I think Montreal, because we're probably going to end up rotating, I could see that as a loss or a draw too, even though the team is not that good, just from the conditions. So we'll see. I think so. If I had to go on points here, I'd say 4 points, 7 points, 8 points from the month. Probably that's not great. That would I think that would trend us out of 8th place if I'm looking at where everyone else is probably likely going. But that's my conservative estimate for the month.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we can get a win against Philly. I think we can get a win. You know what? I got to look at the home games. I'm going. I think I'm going to go 9 points. 9 points.
I think that's fair too. So Philly just spooks me a little bit, and Red Bull is just a wild card. I think so. But
yeah,
an exciting month.
My recommendation is that you should always win your home games. Actually, I will say 10. I think we can get a draw. I think I'll factor in a draw between Atlanta and Montreal.
All right, you were here first. Ted's got 10. I got 8. We'll see where we land.
Regardless of who you play, you should win your home games. I'm sorry,
you should.
I don't care. I don't care who you're playing. You should win your home games. Look, the schedule doesn't get any easy. The schedule does not get any easier on the road for this team. We've got, look at some of the other upcoming. You got Toronto, Chicago and Toronto are probably the 2 easiest home games, even though Toronto is not, they're not the carpet, the laughing stock they have been. Then you've got Houston, who are pretty good, and you've got.
Let's go. We're gonna check our calendars. I gotta go to that Houston game on the 22nd of June. That has to happen. If I'm in town, I'm there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
all right.
juicy.
We should move on. But
I'm in town. I'm gonna be there, guys. Let's go. Let's do it.
My point is that the home games are not going to are not going to be easy in the East. Like they're going to be opponents that are going to be good. If DC wants to make the playoffs, they have to find a way to get some of these results. So that's what I have to say about that.
Take.
Yeah. All right. Shift gears. Let's talk Washington Spirit. 3-2 loss at home to Orlando. Orlando team seemed to just have DC team's numbers.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I thought this game was pretty disappointing coming off of the previous week. I think there was a question about sort of what are the tactics at play here. No Marta, no Barbara Bonda's a player that this team was concerned about. She got her first opportunity and first goal in the previous week. It turns out she's very good. It turns out that they should definitely be trying to game plan against her. And they couldn't really so much. I want to look at make sure I have the lineup up from that game. I think there weren't any major. Oh, the one major trade. Yeah, there was one that was weird. Paige Mateer was playing and starting on the graphics as a forward, but really was at some sort of a floating advanced winger / midfielder. It was a pretty weird choice, and one that was remedied at halftime, bringing Ashley Hatch on as a 9 for Ule Sar. But it was notable, certainly something that was not what anyone was anticipating. I'm trying to make sure that there were no other things about that lineup that were notable. I think not. But from the start, Orlando did not have much of the ball. They really were trying to deny Trinity and Croy opportunities, which is, should be everyone's strategy. That should be the goal every team playing is where else are you going to go? The left side of the field has historically not been very productive so far this season. It's either been Ashley Hatch out on the left. Paige Mateer had some opportunities for a while. The sides switched over the course of the game. They don't keep sides too long. It's not very rigid. She had a couple opportunities at the start. But after probably the 15th, 20th minute, that ended. Ashley Hatch came on as a 9, replacing Ule Sar at the halftime, and scored a goal later. But they just were not themselves. They were not providing the same sort of danger that they had provided all season. They did create chances. It was not Seattle away, certainly, as far as sort of what, the lack of XG and the disappointment that was there. But, I was disappointed that Orlando was able to score basically on the back of Barbara Banda on the wings, torching our center backs, Anna Butel at fault for 2 goals in this game, one of which when she was forced due to a turnover at midfield to run with Banda, and she could not, and she got torched. The finish by Angelina was ridiculous, just a great sort of side volley. But the PK, the third goal PK, was bad decision making. She could not handle Banda's speed and just kind of got suckered into leaving her feet inside her own box. Did not even pretend to think that it couldn't be a penalty. Was just head down immediately as the foul was called. And the referee took a while to call it. I was thinking the referee looked at her and was like, she looks too guilty. What's going on here? Am I missing something? But that was that, man. It was kind of an unfortunate game. Tara McKeown, I think I singled her out in my post game. Let me make sure that's true as being, I said Tara McKeown playing very well in a sea of lower than average performances in the back line. 81% passing, 106 touches, 10 passes into the final third, 47% on long balls, 10 clearances, 11 recoveries, 2 interceptions, and 4 for 5 on ground duels. She was all over the place. She was the only successful defender. And I said you got to give it to Mark Parsons on this one. He nailed that one. She's an exceptionally, legit NWSL center back, and no one had any reason to believe that she would have been, much less her, and that worked out.
What?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I mean, what about Sar with the really really tidy finish? Probably
yeah. I mean, in watching that, there are 15 ways to finish that opportunity, and she picked the hardest one to do, and it worked out. So I do not begrudge her that, but I mean that was good. That was certainly good. I didn't,
I still thought this team generated. They didn't look. Their 3-1 just I felt like came from very specific breakdowns. The team, I think, maybe losing the battle in the middle of central midfield. I think really, certainly 2 of the goals definitely came from where they had possession. They were maybe a little sloppy in possession. They lose possession, and then they're coming right back down the other way. So I think this we've watched this team play some very effective and very tight, controlled games. That's what's led to this winning streak. And I thought this was a game maybe where they didn't have quite the control that was required to go out and win this game. I think they maybe lost a little bit. So I think it shows that, I think we've been a little bit on cloud 9 with this team winning games. And I think maybe this was a little bit come back to earth that, this is still, and a reminder, this is still a talented team that's still a work in progress, especially defensively, as you call out. I think this team needs some defensive depth. There's rumors, I think a player they're signing for an NWSL team from Spain, I believe. So
I haven't heard much from that. I think that might have been just a conjecture thing.
Okay.
I'm looking at the XG situation here is pretty equal.
Mm-hmm.
It was Orlando has more, but it was 2.9 to 2.3 or something like that. So I don't know. It looked worse in live. It looked worse watching it than that. Ashley Hatch, great goal. I mean, not really a great goal. That was a goalkeeper mistake. Good that she hit it hard. You never know what's going to happen. And 2 goals in 2 games after the player had no goals all for the full season. So happy for her there. Other things that are not good are Anna Halferty left with a knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
Although we did see her at Audi Field at the DC United game without crutches or anything else. So who knows? Maybe she's all right. Hopefully that's the case. Probably just a scary situation, but hoping for the best for her.
Yeah. One other aspect I want to mention, I still felt like even in a limited role, Bethune had some unbelievable passing. I think the goal that comes from Sar comes from a pass that she kind of sets up. And so that was very impressive. Very impressive to watch, I feel like, from her. And Mateer almost had a really nice banger that maybe would have made this a draw, and maybe we're looking at something different. So
yep. Croy only had one chance created this game. For her, like, it's funny, the sliding scale for her is that she needs 2 or 3 a game, or else it's a below average performance for her. So I think she's kind of damaged by her how great her season has been so far. But
Fair.
not a bad game from her. Trinity Rodman continues to be the chance creator du jour, even when she's at an off game. So we'll see how they bounce back here. They've got an opportunity playing Chicago on Wednesday. As you're hearing this tomorrow, that game will be a challenge. The Red Stars, I think, lost 2-0 to Portland this weekend, and were pretty mad about it. I don't think they felt that it was a fair result. So, should be fun to visit Sam Staub in Clearview, Illinois, and see how that goes. Hopefully they have been decent on the road this season, right? They had. I'm trying to remember. I'm getting my road performances between DC United and Spirit mixed up. DC United are the tie masters on the road, right? And then
basically, yes.
And then the Spirit have one in Chicago or one in Houston, and that's their only road win.
Yeah, the other one came against the other road game was against the Reign. They haven't really been on the road too much, so
it's coming. They've got 3 in a row on the road. They're not home again until May 18th.
Yeah, so Chicago's still a team. I think they're 5th right now in the standings. I think they're still a team that's also trying to, very much rebuild under a new coach. But they of course have Sam Staub, who they've picked up, who's a good player. But I still think, and Mallory Swanson as well, who's still coming off injury, still trying to find her form. So could be, I think, a fun match. I think it's a match that if the Spirit come out and play the games that we saw in this win streak, I think there's a very good chance they come out with a win. So I think, if they control the game the way they have in those last few games, if they kind of go back to that, I think they'll be good. So
I also forgot that Orlando had a red card in this game.
Yeah, second yellow
in the 90th minute. So it had stoppage time. It had like 12 minutes of stoppage time, but couldn't get it done. And then, to your point, Hatch's attempt hit the crossbar in the 7th added minute, and Robin Mateer. It says Hatch in Golf's report.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So they had a chance to draw it there. I think it's good that this to me was a letdown of a performance. It tells you that the expectations have risen a lot over the course of a winning home streak. But this is going to be, we keep saying like, oh, well, wait till they play a good team. And I'm doing that again now. Wait till they play 3 games on the road and see how many points they get out of it. I think Chicago is extremely winnable. They've got a pretty banged up Portland Thorns, although now maybe coming off of a win in Chicago, maybe we're going to see something different. Let's see. What's Portland's? They've won 2 in a row. They were in last place 2 weeks ago, and they might still be near there. They were never going to stay there. It's just not the way NWSL works. So you've got Red Stars who, we'll see. Portland Thorns and an ascendant Portland Thorns and a Racing Louisville, who is, I think, below them in the table. They are 6th in the table. So I would think 2 of you could see a 3-win situation there. You could see a 2-win situation. 1 win would be a disappointment. Yeah, that would tell you sort of like, all right, the rebuild is still in process.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it. We'll definitely have more content for you guys coming out. Hope you guys have been enjoying the written content. It's definitely going to be coming to you continually. Join our Patreon page, patreon.com/RFQRefugees to get in on that. Again, I don't think we have any interviews scheduled this week, John, but maybe we'll see about a Friday show or something.
Yep.
We got a Spirit game this midweek, so maybe we'll have something to review. Anyway, I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.